we're focused on growth.
First, inflation was transitory.
With everything coming to the head as far as supply chain issues.
It's about raising capital.
We were expecting credit crisis, credit freezes.
Once again, my name is John.
Seriously, you did it again.
All right. Thank you for joining us again here on Middle Class Macro. My name is John, joined once again by my good friend and business partner, Steven. Today, we're going to be going over pension plans, what's happening to pensions right now, how that affects really a lot of our parents' generation who are trying to retire in the middle class and what happens to them from that, how that ties into cost of living, expenses, 401k, Social Security, all the whole 9 yards on essentially retirement. So, Steve, I know that we've been looking a lot into this lately. Robert Kiyosaki has a lot of great talking points on pensions, what's happening right now. He has a book, Who Stole My Pension, which has a lot of great insights with a forensic accountant, essentially, who has been going through and auditing these pension accounts and finding that really it's like they're so over leveraged in a sense that they do not have like the amount of assets they have in their account do not cover the liabilities going out to people being paid out. And we might be reaching a point where that's going to start affecting people now.
It seems like they even started taking out loans just to be able to invest.
Right.
It's gone crazy.
When using leverage like that, dangerous game. Yeah.
And it's like that's why I'm like wondering, like, how did it get to a point where they were allowed to like just do a lot of mismanagement and just like, like the book, like, the book said, like, they basically prioritize profit over like making sure they're going to be able to that the city or the union's going to be able to pay these people out the money that they promised. Because, they did, like, there are like a lot of big promises that they did make, they're also paying medical, like whatever medicals that they promise, for life and stuff like that.
Right.
And
what percentage of your income that you're getting paid out for the rest of your life. I know, especially, for things like you think of like, first thing that comes to mind to me is like firefighters, police officers, teachers, teachers, public service workers. Really, we're given a deal that obviously makes sense for the work they put in. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. Yeah. Is this mathematically possible? And his name was Ted Siddell. Yeah. And he's really showing that they do not have the means of covering this. And unfortunately, a lot of these pension plans, I think, one of the parts he touches on that's most important is that the actual people from the pension plans who are supposed to be monitoring this with the financial companies that are making the investments, they don't have the fiduciary knowledge to even understand what they're looking at. They don't even understand that what the problem really is, because they don't really understand finance from that perspective.
All they can think about is profit.
Right. Like they said that this money's going to come, so it must going to come. But what happens when it doesn't?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's reminiscent of Bernie Madoff a little bit, which I remember Kiyosaki talked about a little bit with Siddell a bit about how, Bernie Madoff, essentially the Ponzi scheme of all this, you know what I mean? Which if you look at what a lot of these, pension plans are, they in a sense, structurally, it's not
that far off
from that. Yeah. And what happens when the Ponzi runs out, right? Like Madoff screwed a lot of people who were never made whole from that. Ever, and is that what's going to happen to baby boomers specifically, and obviously the rest of us who are guaranteed any sort of retirement pension as well?
That's what I wondered too, because I kept wondering, like, would pensions just be eliminated, or would they try to like print their way out of this one too? You know what I mean?
It is very possible. Yeah, they start doing bailouts of pension plans. I mean, like, how that's going to affect the normal taxpayer and consumer. If the government takes over, private pension plans, starts trying to cover them out of, U.S. tax dollars. I know that Robert Kiyosaki and Ted Siddell were talking about pension envy, where if we do start using taxpayer funded money to bail out these pension plans who made bad investments, just like the bailouts, I guess, essentially in 2008, during the housing crisis and everything, all these bad investments are made. The taxpayer gets put on the hook to bail these people out. The taxpayer gets no benefit, which if you're a taxpayer who's not part of one of these pension plans, you wouldn't be getting a direct benefit from it. So it's kind of like, why are my taxes going up for these bad investments? I wonder if that is a situation we're going to see here on that.
Probably. Like, I do know I forgot who it was, the one in the other video that you sent me. He was saying
Mhm.
like one city tried to prevent doing that. I think it was Stockton.
Right. Yeah. Stockton, California had that problem as well. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I mean, like, I think what ends up coming from that though is that the other option is just starting to cut the benefits, like cut
Hmm.
what you receive, which obviously I used to be a Teamster. I used to work for UPS, and I remember that like the Teamsters were very hard line about like, no, these promises were made. This is the contract. You will uphold it. We will strike. You know what I mean? We could
Hmm.
really see a problem like that start to really snowball from this issue of the pension plans not being able to be covered and the promises that were made.
Jesus, this is great. Like, I'm sorry.
No, no, absolutely. It's a lot. It's a big issue that I
Hmm.
don't think anyone really has an answer on. I think really what's
Oh.
more scary than having not having an answer is that how few people are aware of this issue to begin with. People really think that pension plans are just, like that's a guarantee. Like they promised this is a guarantee.
Hmm.
I mean, all because it was promised does not mean it's going to absolutely be delivered. And if we have a fallout from that, I really worry with rising costs of living right now. Social Security obviously is not keeping pace with the
Hmm.
cost of living. I know that a lot of baby boomers, both my parents are both on Social Security now. The money they get from it is definitely not going to cover much more than just some monthly bills.
Mm.
Um, it makes me wonder what future that holds in such an unpredictable economy that we're entering into right now.
That's what I wonder too, because like I know, like right now, especially if you're living in California, New York, or Chicago, like those really expensive
Yes.
areas, like there's no way you're gonna be able to just live on Social
No,
Security. Like it's impossible.
absolutely not.
Like it's ridiculous how bad inflation has gotten everywhere, and
Yes.
with rent being ridiculous in those areas, like it's I can't imagine I can't imagine
Right.
I can't imagine a lot of people being able to retire right now because of it. Just like probably still keep
Yes.
their obviously still have their Social Security, but that's more like now they have to have a job to supplement that Social Security income.
Exactly. Yeah. I would see this very often with people who retired. This is when I was working for Disneyland. I remember back in college, which, oh boy, that was a long time ago now. That's, we're talking 12, 13 years now. Oh,
Hmm.
okay. Now that I feel old. Um, yeah, 12, 13 years ago, I remember that a lot of people who retire from like, whatever job they worked their whole life, they would then get a job at Disneyland because they're only allowed to make, when you retire, you're only allowed to make a certain amount, I believe, working and still like while you're receiving your Social Security benefits.
Mm.
So there was like a balance. You're going to make so much or whatever. I guess it's to prevent people from like getting doubling up, getting your Social Security, then like a full salary or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure, but I remember people would do that a lot. And at the time, it seemed more supplemental. I mean, I also know this was after the '08 collapse. So a lot of the people who were affected by that, who probably would just be enjoying their golden years, their 401ks were destroyed. They didn't have nearly as much. You know what I mean? Social Security obviously wasn't keeping up. Value of their home had dropped. And I think that's going to be such a normalized thing now about grandma and grandpa being the Walmart greeter in their golden years. And I just think that's honestly like, I mean, it's fine if you enjoy working, but and it keeps you busy or something if you choose to do that. But
Hmm.
I worry that most people are going to have to do that
Yeah.
going forward.
We're kind of starting to see it because I've noticed a lot of especially people close to that senior citizen age, they're doing like this the gig economy stuff like Uber and
Yes.
DoorDash and stuff like that.
Yeah. They definitely have picked up on that too. Just trying to make a little bit extra money to keep going. The
Hmm.
gig economy has definitely been a double-edged sword. It has helped some people supplement, but at the same time, it's sad that this is where we're at. That people just have to just do this gig work, possibly in perpetuity, to constantly supplement their income because
Hmm.
they just will not receive enough from either like a pension plan that they were promised, especially if we start seeing these start folding. That the way that Ted Siddell is talking about with a lot of these, especially state pensions, apparently a lot of states are very heavily underwater. In terms of like how much they have covered. We're talking, I believe was it Illinois? I believe was under 40% funded
Yeah.
in their pension plan, which, Illinois is massive. You just think about the city of Chicago alone. If those people can't receive their benefits there with the cost of living in Chicago, I mean, that's really worrisome. That's really worrisome for the generation who's looking to retire now, especially.
Mm-hmm. It makes me want, like, if they're going to try to pay out as much as they can, or if they're just going to like say, well, we can't pay, we're just not going to be able to pay anything out. So sorry.
Yeah, it's like, if I ain't got it kind of a thing, which
Mm-hmm.
could just lead to this snowball ripple effect, especially, because obviously we know that you have your defined contribution, defined benefit in terms of like your plans and everything. And if obviously the defined benefit was more preferable because you were technically guaranteed, the money
Mm-hmm.
going forward. If your guarantee gets broken on, and on top of that, we've been talking a lot about how overinflated the stock market is, and obviously everyone's 401ks is directly tied to stocks and bonds. If we start seeing, a serious downsurge, which I think both of us are in agreement that we are on the cusp of really experiencing now, people will have very little options for retirement in an inflationary environment like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, like, dude, I didn't know about this, but um, Saito brought up a point. He said that 94% of U.S. government pensions are in crypto.
Yeah. When he was mentioning that about how pension funds had been in crypto, and they were in was it Celsius? They
I
were
think so.
yeah, and we started watching that blow up. I see. This is what I really find interesting. I think in this current economic cycle, crypto it's always seemed like since it's unregulated, it's so new, it's so volatile. I feel like that's going
Mm-hmm.
to really be the canary in the coal mine when we see, because crypto has been a rocky road at this point. It's been fairly stable at this point now. Like nothing major's happened I can really think of
Mm-hmm.
in the past few months, at least.
Yeah.
Talking like recent times,
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
Yeah.
But like there's nothing backstopping any of this, and I really wonder. I'm like, if crypto really tanks the way we're thinking, the ripple effect they'll have out to all other investments, people who just need to have liquidity to be able to live,
Mm-hmm.
like, well, I mean, that would really reshape everything at that point.
Like, what do you think would happen first? Would crypto tank pensions, or would pensions tank crypto? You know what I mean?
Right. Which one would
Like,
come first on that?
yeah, would people pulling out of crypto force pensions to dry up, or not dry up, but like lose money, or would people pulling their pension, like being paid out their pensions, make crypto, you know?
I, I guess on a long term scale, if you look at that from that way, if pensions are constantly relying on crypto returns to pay out to the plan, that could drain out crypto in like a long term process. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see that. But I really think that the bigger threat is more the short term right now in this current environment. And that to me looks, I think that the whole crypto blowing up and then directly like, oh, now these pension plans who were invested in these crypto exchanges, now they have a major loss on their books. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, like, I really wonder just how the response will be. I worry that it's going to be 2008 all over again, where the taxpayer really does end up getting the bailout basically from this, or this could be the transition into the CBDC that we have predicted. Honestly, it's coming sometime next cycle too. If
Mm-hmm.
enough, major structural things start, I guess, imploding, for lack of a better word, start happening, that could be the exact situation. It's like the reset that everyone kind of thinks is on the horizon at this point.
Mm-hmm. I'm afraid to see that happen too, because like I was watching a video and someone was saying like the rich would probably have to be on it too. And it's like, well, no, the banks
Yeah,
could do something where they're telling people that they have to convert their cash to CBDC, but they're giving calls to anyone who makes seven figures or more, just saying, well, because it's taking so long, we're gonna have to hold off on converting your cash into this. So,
right,
like, it's gonna be a while before we can do that for you, and they're
right.
just not gonna do it and let them keep their cash.
That there's definitely a possibility of that. I could definitely see like an attempt to probably maybe transition things over to this central bank digital currency, while like they're trying to move cash out with people who have large holdings, especially if you have large holdings outside of U.S. jurisdiction, which obviously many wealthy people do, have their wealth outside of U.S. jurisdiction. How if you can't get a hold of the funds, how do you forcibly convert it, right? Which then becomes like, will there become an underground market for dollars? I guess in a sense, it's like dollar milkshake theory almost coming full circle from just the rest of the world needing U.S. dollars to now actual Americans kind of having their like a desperate need for U.S. dollars as well. Kind of crazy.
Excuse me, really.
All the things that we thought that were going to be fiction now really look lot more probable at this point, which I think is interesting. I want to read this quote real quick here. It was an LA Times article that was talking about CalPERS, which California Public Employees Retirement System, which is one of the most dangerously underfunded in the country, according to what Ted and Robert were saying in their podcast. Which, being that I'm in California, I fully believe that's the case, because I know the benefits that we pay out and this how they're supposed to adjust the cost of living. Well, with California cost of living, you know what I mean? Like it's a real hard bill to meet on that. Yeah. So in this article saying that CalPERS, the nation's largest state pension fund, experienced a 6.1 investment loss in the fiscal year that ended in June 30th. That was the first annual loss since the Great Recession for the fund that provides pension benefits to employees of the state of nearly 2,900 counties, cities, special districts, and other public employers. Assets fell to $440 billion after topping $500 billion last year. So that's already a massive haircut off the top in a place that's having rising cost of living. Yeah. This was an article that was written back. Looks like this is back in September when this LA Times article was written. We could be watching this, and the market's obviously last week. I know that we had a couple of big red days on the market again. So there's been a continuous down. The trend has been down for sure recently in the markets. Makes you wonder how much more effective this will be as we're going on with this.
Pretty heavily, I think, because it's not like how it was a few months ago where, we're going to hit a bottom and then all of a sudden another bull rally or whatever.
Right.
There's no, valuations are starting to catch up with what's going on. Everything is overvalued and now everything's dropping down to its fucking true value, or starting to drop down to its true value.
Right.
And it's gonna hit pension if they're as leveraged as the statistics say. I think I was reading something in 2020. It would there were hold on, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. 2020, U.S. pension funds are underfunded by 1.3 trillion.
$1.3 trillion.
How much is that now? How much are they underfunded now?
Right. And especially with everything that's happened the last few years with the inflation, everything that we're living through, that we're not even anywhere near seeing the peak of in terms of consumer prices too. It really makes you kind of feel like it's like someone who's like, well, the credit card's almost maxed out, so I don't really know how I'm going to pay this off, so I might as well just run it, right? Run it until my limits hit, and then I guess deal with it then. I mean, if someone thinks that there's another solution or something's going to happen, I'd be more than happy to hear it. To me, it sounds like we're going to charge it until it doesn't charge no more. It kind of feels like the general approach now at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm surprised they're not going back to raising their credit limit again, just to keep this going longer. But
exactly.
What's going to happen if they try to keep it longer? Is it just going to it's just going to make it even worse than when that fucking does finally hit and they finally just take their foot off the gas?
Right. Well, hard to say. I know that back a few months ago, we saw over in the UK that pensions almost imploded What
Mhm.
was this back in
It's November, right?
November? Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's when all that started happening, and there had to be like a direct intervention by the Bank of England because like the pension funds were basically about to go insolvent.
Hmm.
That makes me think about like if one pension, like people think like, well, that's over there. You know what I mean? How would that? But I think the economy in the world is so intertwined now. The domino effect that would have, it would be like a Lehman Brothers type moment again, or Bear Stearns type moment, essentially, where
Hmm.
just like one insolvency has enough capital to now make this massive hole that can ripple out to plenty of other balance sheets for all these other major institutions.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see that play out sometime soon here as well.
Like we've probably been surprised so many times that it hasn't played out yet, especially like, the
I
threat,
surely have.
credit squeeze, that almost
Mm-hmm.
became a huge
That
threat.
almost became a massive, yeah, massive issue. Now there's like a correct Suisse is getting a direct line of credit now from the IMF, I believe it was.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like so we solved the problem. We're funneling money faster. So everything's fine. Like I just don't know. I think it's kind of crazy when you look at all this. Like I said, I don't want to call all financial systems institutions gigantic Ponzi schemes, but it feels like everything's a gigantic Ponzi scheme at this point.
Hmm.
And we're actually hitting the limit of what can be pushed within it. Just like when the Ponzi scheme starts falling apart, you just start watching what was the quote? I believe it was like, "How do you go bankrupt?" It's like very gradually, then very suddenly. I believe
Hmm.
it was a quote, and the gradual. We're definitely in the gradual, no doubt about that. The
Yeah,
sudden feels very very quick here to come.
I think so, yeah. Because I mean, um, this is how long has this been going on?
I mean, like the pension system being underfunded has been something that's been as far back. I mean, Kiyosaki has been talking about this since the '90s. Realistically, it was just
Hmm.
at a point then that like, obviously, like good times, boom times. You know what I mean? Like you can just kind of, it's like if you got the cash flow coming in, right? You just kind of keep
Hmm.
up with it. I really feel like this is starting showing its head of being a major problem since the '08 crisis. Really, that's really when a lot of these balance sheets are really showing like, hey, we have a major problem here.
Hmm.
And now with through this whole like pandemic and how that's changed everything and the amount of essentially money printing and bailouts have gone around this point, I I think now we're just kind of reaching, like I said, the limit point on this that we've been talking about for years now.
Hmm. Jesus.
Yeah, right. Man, it has been kind of crazy. I think it was kind of interesting because we were talking a little bit about the Steve Bannon clip. This was in 2019 too, when he was talking to Frontline.
Hmm.
And as much as I'm not really a personally big fan of his,
Yeah, not
um,
either.
not it is what it is. When someone's right, they're right. And he was
Hmm.
definitely very right about this. I think he gave a very good perspective and a good breakdown. And once again, this is pre-COVID, this is pre-pandemic, which shows you this was all how serious the issue was then
Hmm.
in an economy that even though we could sit here and criticize it in hindsight and still say there's a lot of broken things about it then compared to what it is now, it was far more functional and less broken than what we are
Hmm.
currently in, which is really the thing that's like the kicker, I would say, at this point more than anything.
I believe so, yeah. Because I mean, because even back then, like there was a little bit of trouble, but it was like more like a blip on the radar type of thing because
Yeah,
they were quick to react and start fucking the reverse repo uh,
right.
machine
God,
again. But now it's like if they were even to like any interference wouldn't do anything. I feel,
yeah,
or it's gonna get to
it's
that point real soon.
real soon. Yeah, no, like the whole kick the can. You can only kick the can down the road to a certain point when you hit a wall. And once you hit the wall, you can't. You know what I mean? You can't do nothing past that point.
Mm.
Which I really do believe personally. I think that's when the switch over to the CBDC really does happen because that really could be like I believe Lynn Alden once said on Twitter that like everyone's fighting, like it's like I guess a general thing about like war, which is every general in the military is always fighting the last war. You know what I mean? You're always fighting the last, because this is what you saw, and recency bias that humans tend to have. And a lot of people are thinking of the last war in terms of like the '08 crisis, which is really a credit crisis above all else. You know what I mean? Whereas this actually might be a currency, like just a straight up currency crisis. We might just be watching a majority of currencies around the world starting to fail. If your purchasing power,
it's already starting.
Yeah, it's already starting. Yeah, like we're watching a lot of problems here, but you'll see a lot of nations that have already experienced full currency crisis. We're still intertwined. Like it might happen gradually here in the States, but eventually, when your purchasing power is, I mean, well, how, like you go to Costco, you go to market now, you're spending $100 to buy, 6 things.
Yeah.
Like at some point when you're spending $100 to buy 2 or 3 things, and that's
yeah.
Yeah.
The sixth thing though too is like, as other currencies, the reason it's not happening as fast for us because the other currencies getting worse are, is making ours stay strong. Right.
Exactly.
So it's like just a sick thing where it's like, but then like how much further before they bottom out and then we start fucking falling, have that free fall.
We'll be the last ones for sure. It's I remember Brent Johnson would always put it that way too. He was like, it's not like I like the USD. It's just that in a situation of everything's bad, this is the best of the bad. You know what I mean? That you can get. Yeah. Which is, if since there's no real long-term thinking or planning that you really can do in this moment that feels secure, I feel like that's just kind of how you have to approach it now. Just like how do you get through the now? I think that's unfortunately where everything's gotten to because of all this, because of the lack of stability and anything. Yeah. So if you want, I think we should, if you want, let's go ahead and play that Bannon clip real quick. Sure. Yeah. And we'll go ahead and react back to you a little bit here.
If I can.
Right. Let's see.
We know from the note.
Cool.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear it. We're good this time.
All right, cool.
Notes of the Federal Reserve, a guy named Richard Fisher, the president of the Federal Reserve of Dallas, argued this in the room constantly. He said, by doing this quantitative easing, which you're just flooding the zone with liquidity, we will save the institutions. And we will save anybody that's a big real estate holder or a hedge fund or bank. But he said, there's a huge reverse here. Number one, savings accounts, you're going to go to zero interest rates. Savings accounts are going to go to zero. So 5,000 years of the Western tradition, back to the Marty Bannons, which is be a good householder. Get a wife, get a mortgage, get some kids, and you save your money. Well, now if you save money, you're a sucker. Because it's broken the trust. That's the trust is broken. If you save money, you're a jerk because you're not going to get any interest pay. In fact, the bank's going to charge you. So there's been you can't put money away to save into the system. Number two, the pension funds. The pension funds are going to be destroyed. Today we have a $9.5 trillion gap between the obligations of the pension funds and what we've earned off the pension funds. Why? Because it went to zero interest rates and the bonds that they can buy have no juice in them. Right. The other thing is the public schools and all this. Even communities that are not leveraged can't issue bonds because there's no juice in the bonds because the negative interest rate is 1.5%. We've essentially put the burden on the bailout on the working class and middle class. That's why nobody owns anything. Right. But the millennials today are nothing but 19th century Russian serfs. They're better fed. They're better clothed. They're in better shape. They have more information than anybody in the world at any point in time. But they don't own anything. They're not going to own anything, okay? And they're 20%. If you mark in time against their parents, they're 20% behind in their income, and there's no pension plan in the future. They're all gig economy. We've literally destroyed the middle class in this country.
Okay.
And both political parties. By the way, this is not about Republicans and Democrats.
Right.
This is the way the system works, and this is the way the system comes together to protect itself and to move itself forward. Okay? And so because nobody understands even the rudimentaries of finance, right? And they keep the public kind of economically illiterate, right? This allows to go on.
Yep. And I think that's just so perfectly put by him on the situation. And again, emphasizing this is pre-COVID. This is before the economy went sideways, before we had all these supply chain crises, before we had massive inflation. Now that we're having a downturn, unemployment is getting worse and worse. A lot of these giant corporate layoffs. It's like the issue that he just addressed on that is now being massively exacerbated. And I think he's absolutely right when he talks. And I think this is why millennials or people our age and younger are so extreme now on the internet. And there's such a mental health crisis because he's right. We are essentially serfs. We don't own anything. We're all renters. A lot of us are putting us household and family formation because we simply can't afford it. I don't know many people my age who own a home. There are some. I have a handful of friends who do own property and who are doing well, but by large and far, majority are definitely struggling, and it's really a concern because I think it just seems to be a problem that's getting worse in one regard or another. And this is why we really, and like you and I have constantly encouraged people like, hey, you might have to go start a business, get your own form of income. You're not going to rely on investments maybe the same way you were before. You're not going to rely on a job the same way before. And I think that we're reaching a point now where if you aren't starting to build your own arc in terms of like what's going to save you from this coming economic flood, I worry about what will happen to people. Because I know it's in where you're at in Vegas and where I'm at here in California, in the LA area, homeless problem is getting crazy worse. And yes, there's a mental health crisis attached to it. Yes, there's a drug problem attached to it. There's a lot of factors to it, but cost of living is definitely a major player in all that. And it's just getting more exacerbated in the issue itself.
Yeah, it is. And it seems like it's just they're saying it's slowing down, but it's really speeding up.
It is. It
Like,
really
it
is.
It's a scary thing to think about. Like, what's crazy too is like it's the people who work in these huge corporations who are they're getting hit first. Like, they're getting hit hard too. Like, so it's
Absolutely.
like you think you're working for this huge company, you're the fucking safest, the most secure, and it's like, no, like when you work with that many people, like they like the thing is they always have to think about the bottom line, and they always think of all unless you're really making huge contributions, no matter what, you're always going to be considered expendable.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, you're never going to be considered absolutely essential to an operation. You can always be replaced out. They're going to see you that way. It's really like I worry because you have a lot of high earners who make six figures and whatnot. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, a lot of these people will probably be able to take a little bit of a pay cut and find another job. Maybe they go from 130, 140 down to maybe 70, you know what I mean, or so a year, which could be something that a lot of people could adjust to survive. But the amount of people who are paycheck to paycheck now, even in that six-figure range, which is crazy to me, that your lifestyle takes that much from you. I also understand if you have a family and kids, but even then, at a certain point, like if your lifestyle is taking that much from you, if you take a massive pay hit like that, and then on top of that, you watch your 401k go down in value, well, that just doesn't bode well for your economic future. And I think we'll see a lot more social problems arise from the financial problem. I think a lot of our social problems that we're facing today really do stem from really the financial hardship and problems that that are at the core of everything right now.
I never even thought about it like that, to tell you the truth. Like, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess in this, yeah, in our world today, everything's connected to fucking finance.
Yeah, it is, and it's one, because if you can't, afford to live your life like normal, you can't afford to take your wife out to dinner. Say, you can't afford to take a trip with, you and the kids and the family.
Mm-hmm.
Can't buy the new car. These sort of things start adding a pressure to all kinds of things in your social life. I mean, like, yourself, you'll be stressed out, working extra hours to barely keep up,
Mm-hmm.
and on top of that too, well, I mean, financial problems are one of the most common factors, to a divorce. That really is it. Even have some firsthand experience here on that, to be honest. Like, it's really a major factor to the social dynamic. As people get collectively poorer together, that makes you wonder, like, will there's always this whole thing of, like, we keep saying the middle class is going to become extinct. They're becoming like an endangered species in some sense. It's becoming a have and have not system.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost seems to be accelerating now with all these factors coming in together.
Oh yeah, it's like you said. Basically, middle class is being turned into serfs.
Yeah.
Better dressed, better fed. But I mean, that's basically more like a let them eat cake type of thing, or better version of it.
Right. It's you have endless entertainment on your phone. You can scroll through, and it helps you, like, forget things temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
You can drive through McDonald's and get, even though the deals at these fast food places now are starting to become insulting a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm like seeing like the I think it was Wendy's the other day. I think it had it's like it's 2 for $6. And I was like, wasn't it 4 for $4? What's going on here? Like, hold up. Like, these aren't deals anymore.
Nope.
You're just slowly bumping this on me and trying to make it sound like it's okay. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the shrinkflation and things,
It's
like,
real, dude. Shrinkflation is real, man.
super real. My roommate went hog wild the other day, and he bought a bunch of Girl Scout cookies because he saw them out there.
Dude.
They're way lesser in the pack, right? They're giving you way less in there. Yeah, it's the same price. Well, it's $6 a box now. But I was
But
like,
still, those
like,
boxes are that big, dude.
yeah, and they're giving you like these 12 cookies in like the little plastic things and the roast.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, they used to give you like a sleeve of them. You know what I mean? I was like, hold up. Mm-mm.
I feel like you used to get like 20, 24 cookies in a box. Now it's like,
Right.
Like, dude, no, this is some ridiculous shit.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And I really feel like, I know you and I are both single guys. So I know, like, the good things that we can kind of pivot, we can adjust our lifestyle. You know what I mean? But, like, I really feel for anyone who's trying to raise a family right now, especially if you have young kids.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just pivot these things. You know what I mean? Like, there are certain things you just need to be able to get. My little brother, it has a 4-year-old daughter at this point, and I'm watching just how much they're struggling to keep up and meet ends meet. My brother, has full time, like he's self-employed in a sense too. He's subcontracted essentially from a place.
Mm-hmm.
His girl has a full-time position where she makes like $25 an hour or something like that, and it's not bad. But with especially out here in California with cost of living, it really is kind of like barely keeping up, being able to afford all the bills, buy all the groceries, and of course try and go out every so often, because who wants to just live a life where you don't, have anything social,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at this point, that's kind of what I've sacrificed in a sense to get my finances in a better place so I can do more, debt paid off, do more investing. Is I really sacrifice all, like, I don't go out that much. I
Mm-hmm.
won't go out to a bar too often. And I think that's like slowly going to creep down to the point where all your only option now to enjoy time is to probably something digital, because that costs less, which I think is why so many of us spend so much time on the internet. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, at least it doesn't cost me any money to be here,
Yeah. I mean, I already paid for the game, and
right.
Just keep being here over and over and over again, keep playing the game over and over, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, until they hit you with the micro transactions.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking that the other day too. Another pitfall I see for parents right now I was at the line at the grocery store. I saw the Fortnite card at the checkout stand for the Fortnite like coin. I was like, that's how they get you. You're in the checkout line and they're like, mommy, Fortnite. Yeah, I need Fortnite credit. You're like, oh God.
He sees that, and then she's like, well, it would keep me from having to use my credit card to pay for it, so he doesn't actually pay for stuff. So
right.
And it's like, that's how they get you.
That's definitely how they get you. And, think like, just like even trying to like, enjoy something like that. Like, it's like, if you're already paying $50 to $100 every grocery trip now, like, and then you have to tack on like, hey, of course your kid wants to play video games. Of course, everyone's playing Fortnite. Like, of course they want to be able to do that. And then it's like, I remember it was a joke that was made on I think it was Chappelle's show years back, when it was like, when gas had gone so high, and it was like, you're at the gas station making a real financial decision between like getting a pack of smokes and like getting, a full tank of gas, because, gas had gotten so high. I feel like we're right back to that again too. Cause, gas has been rising here in California again. We're over $5 again on a gallon. Yeah. A few places will still be under $5, but like I'm noticing we're by large and far, we're over $5 again. So there's just more of this like inflation of our daily goods and like, food, gas, utilities. I had so many friends of mine who would tell me that their gas bill has tripled in the last like month. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Dude.
Crazy. Like we don't really turn on the heater much in this house. So like, it's kind of like, hey, just put on a blanket and deal. But but yeah, still though, like think about it. If you have a family, you have kids, you're gonna need a heater on. It's been a very cold winter, and now it's like, turning on the heater is like gonna kill you. I mean, like, there's no breaks. There's no breaks in anything. You just slowly drain out. And if you already have an expensive lifestyle, well, you might be reaching the same point that these pension plans are.
Yeah. That comes down to having to reassess what's necessary and what's not.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's unfortunate. I hate to say that, but like sometimes you do have to downgrade your lifestyle to be able to keep moving forward.
And a lot of people, upgrade a lifestyle in a way that they really couldn't afford. It was like, I remember Erica Williams said a great line on one of her lives, like last year. I don't even remember which one it was. I just watched so many of them. But she was saying like, you were trying to act like you were middle class. You weren't middle class. You were poor with a credit card is what you were. And I was like, that's really what a lot of people and the way they live are. It's like, you see a lot of people who taking trips, you know what I mean? Who have I always think it's so ridiculous when I see someone who has a very nice car, you know what I mean? Or like even the Teslas. I think how many people have a Tesla now, and your payment's $600 to $800 a month. I'm like, yeah, dude, like,
and I think it's actually worth it. And I'm like, isn't it? I really think about that.
Right. Like, oh, but I'm saving so much on gas. I'm like, I mean, like, yes, you're like, sure, maybe
you still have to pay for the electricity to.
Yeah. I understand it's like less than gas, but I'm just like, if your monthly payment is that high, or I saw on Twitter too, there was a girl who bought this car. I forget what kind of car it was, but it had 84 month payments on it, 84 months of payments. You know what I mean? Like you think about like, that's what they're doing now. They're extending out how long you're just indentured servant. 7 years to pay off a car. That car is going to start shitting out on you before you hit that mark, guaranteed. And then what happens? You're underwater, dude.
Yeah.
You don't even have an asset at that point.
Wow.
And
7 years. That's crazy, dude.
Right. And I think of on TV right now, or not right TV, I mean like streaming, in the commercials, there'll be a lot of car dealership commercials. I see all these new cars are advertising like starting at $400, $500 a month. And it's not even to own, it's for a lease. For a lease. $400 or $500 a month to lease something, to lease a vehicle. I am just like, we have turned into like Steve Bannon was absolutely correct on that. Like serfs, we are serfs. We own nothing. Our lives can be taken from us in no time because we have no ownership of any assets now. Everything is a payment now.
payment
And
subscription or um just forever debt.
yeah, or just forever debt. It's crazy how much this is all compounded. And I really feel like this culmination of all these factors in this downturning economy, because it seems like we're experiencing like a both deflation and inflation at the same time. Inflation in consumer goods, which is why I know, like, we watch Gregory Manarino a lot, and he's telling you that the long play now, if you're going to make if you have an investment money to put aside, is really in commodities going long play, because he thinks the inflation of those is definitely going to continue, which I would honestly agree from what I'm seeing around here. And all the mysterious fires and whatnot that have been happening. But mysterious. Who would have expected that? Um, but like, and then we're seeing a deflation in the, like, people, like, the stock market's going down, so people's 401ks and investments are going down. The housing market's starting to turn for sure. I thought it was very interesting. It seemed like the short-term rental market, Airbnb market, essentially seems to be like crashing essentially right now. I heard the Super Bowl essentially the Airbnbs that were expected to be rented out during the Super Bowl were very lackluster. Like, people were not making the kind of money that they were expecting.
I think like 25% of them are only like being occupied.
And I mean, you think about it, if you're running on, you have all these mortgages out on all these different properties, and you're just running on this like short-term rental strategy, all of a sudden this dries up. So we're going to see all this. I do think, like, if crypto is the canary in the coal mine in terms of investments, and financial markets in a sense, Airbnb is definitely the canary in the coal mine in terms of the housing market. Because as this Airbnb market, the short-term rental that people have been making, tons of money on, obviously up to this point, if we really start to watch that turn, all of these houses going back onto the market is going to flood the supply, essentially, which either is going to get picked up by BlackRock or something, or it's just going to drive down prices for the one asset that most baby boomers who are looking to retire have, is a house. That's where most net worth for the baby boom generation really resides, is in their home. And if that starts, going down, going under, you have less equity to play with within the home, especially if it's not paid off, which, let's be honest, like, how many people have refinanced and, taken
second, third, fourth mortgages.
Line of credit, and they're not getting assets with it. Like, at best, maybe they're paying off debts they have to something. At worst, maybe they're acquiring new debts. You know what I mean? Like, it's really just a culmination. I think it's the can hitting the wall moment seems to be coming. And once we start watching institutional things like these pension funds start to collapse, well, I really worry. I think that will really be the nail in the coffin in terms of, like, the middle class lifestyle, the middle class population. The middle class has already been kind of dragged through the mud in terms of, like, cost of living. Now you start taking away the safety nets that were supposedly guaranteed. Now it's like you became the haves and have-nots overnight, it almost seems like. And that's because most people just aren't paying attention to the changes and the current financial system and economy right now.
No, they're really not, because, like, I mean, they think that because they're still able to, like, they're thinking to themselves, things have gone up a little, but I'm still able to buy some of this stuff, and
right.
But they're not thinking, like, they're not considering how bad it's actually been getting. Like,
yes,
I mean, just a few months ago, we were paying $8-9 for a dozen eggs. The price of eggs have gone down, but it's not down to where it used to be. It used to be like $2-3 for a dozen eggs. Now, like, I think my dad pays like about $4 or $5 for a dozen.
Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. That sounds about right. It's still above where, I mean, like, unless you're getting like the Costco pack of eggs at this point, the big bulk pack, which even then, like, good luck even getting it. There's that too.
President shrinkflate that, making it freaking 10 eggs for fucking $5 or something.
Right. Yeah. I can see that. I could totally see that they just cut a row off of the off of the little cardboard crate or whatever they put them in, and you know what I mean. You just don't even notice. You know what I mean? Don't even notice.
You just there's only 10 in here. Oh, okay, whatever.
Well,
You know,
And slowly,
most people just brush aside stuff like that. Say, oh, that's just how it is now. Oh
that's
well.
just how it is. You know, the slow boil of a frog, right? It's like it's the frog is in the pot boiling, and it's not a problem until it's a problem, right? And all of a sudden it's already done. And I kind of feel like a lot of people are sleepwalking into this moment. Um, just very the people who I would consider who don't keep up with these kind of things, who don't pay attention to financial markets, the economy much. I think a lot of them are starting to wake up to it though, with the inflation. That was really the first thing that
Mm-hmm.
shook a lot of them up, you know. And I think that's just going to be the first of many things that will happen. And unfortunately, with I feel like everything gets news and media attention except for anything economic or financial,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want you focusing on that. They want you focusing on, I mean, God, name it.
Yeah,
Aliens,
they don't
war,
cover it
whatever.
until it's too obvious to ignore.
Exactly. When it's already started crashing and failing. And that
Mm-hmm.
moment of panic, especially like Steve Bannon even said, the majority of people are so uneducated, unaware of anything in the world of finance that like it will be like a sudden like what, you know, rug pull just moment on them.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I mean, it seems like we just learned nothing from 2008,
Mm-hmm.
realistically.
People think
Nothing.
it's still like a fluke or something like that. I was like, oh no,
Right.
just a blip on the radar. Like things are meant to go up all the time. Like
All the time. Right.
really? Like
Yeah.
like what about 2002? What about was it 1989?
Yeah. 87. 87.
87,
Yeah.
1987. What about was it 74 to
Hmm.
the early 80s?
Yeah. Exactly. To the
What
start of
about
Reagan
the
administration.
what about the early 40s to the early 50s? What
Right.
about the Great
Exactly.
Depression? Even before that. But even before that, it wasn't as bad as it has been since since money printing began.
Yes. Which is exacerbating. Like you look at every chart now about, you know, growth of money supply, you know, M1 specifically more so than M2.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the correlation in terms of like, you know, the stock market, whether it be like the S&P or, you know, the Dow, whatever you're following per se. And you just look at the constant rise up, you know what I mean? Like you see like it was always it was like '02 boom, then down, '08 boom, then down. Now we're looking at where we're at now. And it's just like it massively towers, like the valuation, everything is massively towering where we were before. So if we're in a,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if we're going to take a percent, like a 50% down, that is so much more significant from where we are today than where we were at that point,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, yeah,
And
because
then we start
15
watching guarantees, and
start
then we
what?
watch the guarantee, and then we start watching the guarantees go away along with that, because that's obviously people with 401ks and traditional retirements. The pensions who are all supposed to guarantee you money also become insolvent. Just think of how many people that private and public sector that just get rug pulled again.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
they're gonna blame it on what they say in The Big Short. They're gonna blame it on the poor and
Hmm.
immigrants.
Exactly. They're always going to look for an out. You're never going to blame the system that actually created this, and you're going to look to cut. And it's like the former middle class who's going to become poor is going to cannibalize each other in terms of like who gets whatever resources are left,
Mm-hmm.
while those who really are the ones who destroy the system, um, well, I don't know. They always seem to be fine, right? I mean, a
Mm-hmm.
couple of them go to jail for, you know, good show, but nothing actually changes.
Mm-mm. Nothing, no, because they don't. They only discipline, not discipline. They only arrest that one per. They only arrest that one person just for, like you said, for show or for just
Mm-hmm.
to make people think that they're showing an example of what could happen. When it's just
Get a
like, no,
good headline.
he's just a patsy. So the rest of so people think that they're doing something to
Right.
protect the public.
Right. You know, it's comparable in a sense, even though this is a very different, obviously, situation in the sense of like when Epstein got caught, only he was prosecuted and got
and Ghislaine Maxwell, yeah.
Maxwell, yeah. And then, like people like it puts on a good show, but did anything actually get fixed from the atrocities of that?
Mm-hmm.
No, not really, I would believe, because I feel like we would absolutely hear about it if anything had actually, been exposed or changed. And the same thing seems to happen financially as well.
Mm-hmm.
Too big to fail, too big to prosecute, too big to arrest. I think that's a real thing here in many regards. And I know we focus financially here, but I think that happens in many regards of politics and society. And it all starts with the resources. So if you're the one with the resources, I guess you make the rules.
Yeah. I guess that's why China's going to rule things soon, huh?
It does seem to be the way it's going here. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I really feel for, because I know that we always try and give solutions. On this one, though, I don't know really what the solution is for that, because I really feel like this pension crisis, this retirement crisis that's upon us, that's taking away, any sort of wealth from a middle class perspective. The baby boomer generation, who's going to be the one most affected by this, since they're looking to retire now, I do not know what they can do to pivot. I mean, like, you're so old at that point. Think of how many of them have, maybe like a health issue or something going on as well.
Yeah.
Do you have the energy and ability to start a business like we always emphasize here, which I do think is still people's best bet on mitigating everything that's happening right now. But what can they realistically do? And personally, I don't really have an answer here on this one.
Ooh. Yeah, no, that's really a tough question, because it's like, well, you can't really check off them not being able to start a business at that age. Because I mean, Harlan Sanders, creator of Kentucky Fried Chicken, he started it when he was 64. So I mean,
right,
there's still a chance. It's gonna be tougher now. There's gonna be a lot more competition.
Right.
But I mean, at least at the same time, I feel like they'll be able to like appeal to their own market a whole lot better than we ever could. Like,
true.
You think any boomer would want to buy anything from us? I think a boomer's going to want to buy something from Gen Z. Is like, you're going to say,
yeah,
no, this product's bomb, no cap.
Be bussing. I'm going to make your investments be bussing. Oh man, no, you got a point. There definitely is an opportunity. I think if that generation who's looking to retire wants to take it, it's just like the and again, if that is the situation for it is, that's all you can do, then of course you have to do what you have to do to be able to make it survive and have any sort of prosperity. It's like the same thing I kind of said about like people who are retirement age, spending their golden years as a greeter in Walmart or something. It's just like, it's a shame that you have to resort to doing all this work at this point in your life, when you really should just be enjoying golden years. I recently started working again for my family's locksmith business, which has been nice because it's allowed my mom to now spend a lot of time babysitting and raising my niece, while both my sibling and his girl work essentially. And during that period of time in your life, that like last section or chapter of your life, you really want to enjoy the fruits of your labor. You want to enjoy your family. You do want to relax a little bit. I'm not saying that, you're guaranteed that, and like, all because you want that, you shouldn't do anything, but it's such a shame that at that point in your life, you have to make such a massive pivot like that. I think that's really, it does a disservice to our parents' generation. It's not our fault per se, but I mean, like, it's going to be our responsibility though, because a lot of our parents might end up moving in with us in the future, considering the situation. Multi-generational households, I think, are definitely more and more normal. Absolutely. First it started out with our generation, specifically the millennials, not leaving home very soon enough, realistically, like traditionally, because we came of age during the financial crisis. And now it might be the reverse, where now that we get some financial stability, our mom and dad, who kind of got rug pulled by their pension, by their 401k, by cost of living, by their property going down. Now they got to rely back on us. And that's a lot of extra financial stress on ourselves as well. I just see a lot of difficulties coming up from that across the board for people who are not wealthy, at least.
I mean, also, if you think about it, like, with a lot of the cultures, that's actually pretty normal.
That's true. That is
You know what
true.
I mean?
Yeah, especially like Asian, like both of our moms are Asian, and multi-generational households are very much a more. I mean, Filipinos, it's like a compound basically. You know what I mean? They got everyone in there.
I think Asian parents always want us to have the best jobs we can get because they want us to be able to take care of them.
Yeah, they know the game. They know the game. The American parents, they like, oh no, it's fine. I got a retirement for this and that. I'm gonna be fine. If you come from, especially if you're come from a third world nation, which both of our moms have, you know what it is for real. Like you're not you're not just depending on something. You're like, oh no, this can all definitely go away for sure.
Yeah.
So
I mean, luckily they'll be able to go back to the life that they have to.
Right.
My mom used to. I mean, my mom talks about it all the time. They used to like. I mean, they had like chickens and stuff like that. So she has no problem if we have to. Fucking
if readjusting that. My mom's the exact same way. Talks about how she grew up in the jungle. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't have like telephones. You know what I mean? Like, they just had to walk the jungle to go talk to each other. So
yeah.
But both of our dads though are American boomers, and I worry because I feel like both of our dads might represent that whole specific kind of boomer, especially who's like, I've worked my years, I put in my time, I was promised this and this. And if they're just kind of like, well, not delivered upon, I wonder if mentally, if you've had the same game plan your whole life, can you pivot mentally at that point in your life? You know what I mean? Without ever having another perspective on how to live, which our moms have another perspective since they grew up in the Philippines, but our dads growing up here, I wonder if like in their 60s, they'll be able to make that like mind shift that like, oh, it's time to change this. I think my dad personally definitely would not. That's just me assessing my dad. Like if everything went sideways, I don't know. I don't think he'd be able to like, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to rechange this now. I think the majority of the American population too, especially if they live the normal, American dream lifestyle, mentally, because that's really where it starts. I mean, you can talk about like the numbers and what you can change and what you can give up, but really it's about like accepting that before you can actually implement that. I think a lot of people might have a real problem with that going forward. So
yeah, for my dad, it's a bit different. The house is paid off already, and like my mom's already retired, and they already pulled her 401k, so she hasn't like whatever's left, or not whatever's left, but whatever they took out, like they don't have to worry about that dropping anymore or whatever. But
right. Oh, okay. There you go. So yeah, they at least have their nest egg, and they're gonna.
And then they're both on Social Security. I don't know, but. They're on Social Security, but I'm more worried about with the inflation with that. Yeah. But they have like a lot of, because of that, like the main thing, not having a mortgage makes a huge difference.
Yes.
Like because of that, like I don't think my parent, like because of that, I don't believe my parents will have to worry about too much about having to pivot in the case of that because,
Right.
But, that's not exactly while that is the goal for the average American,
but that's not the common situation.
Yeah, the average American hasn't exactly achieved that just yet. You know what I mean?
No,
or the average boomer to say. So it's like,
absolutely.
No, like I do wonder. Like I do feel like someone will be able to pivot, but I feel like someone will have a hard time at first facing reality, the reality of the whole situation.
Absolutely. I really do think that, especially with the ones who obviously don't have paid off mortgages, or even worse, if you're a baby boomer, if you're in a renting situation, that's really, what I mean, you don't even have anything of equity to your name. Well, that can really be a major problem for what I think the next, at least, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. They look like they're going to be fairly chaotic and
Hmm.
unstable. And I think that's really going to be where a lot of people are going to struggle who are looking to, which the baby boomer generation is. I'm focusing on that because they're specifically the generation that's retiring now.
Yeah.
So they're the most affected. At least Gen X and our generation can kind of pivot, make changes,
Hmm.
figure something out. But the boomers, they're there. They're at the finish
Yeah.
line.
They're the
So it's
ones. They're the demographic that are mostly they're the ones that mostly have the pensions and stuff like that.
exactly, yeah. And they're the
And
ones who really are investing in that more heavily than anyone.
yeah.
So it's no gold watch anymore, right? They don't give you that gold watch and send you on your way with that security anymore, like they did for the like our great grandparents generation. I know
Hmm.
that was always it. You put your 20 years in the company, they give you a gold watch when you retire, and then
Yeah.
you get your pension. And the gold watch is gone, man. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's long gone.
Oh
So
yeah. But I mean, back then, fucking houses were 5 grand, cars were 2 grand, and somehow
insane.
one person was able to afford all that.
Yes, absolutely realistic in the scenario for what it was.
Hmm.
So that really tells you how far things have come. When you talk about a house being anywhere from like under 25 grand
Hmm.
in the last 100 years to now. I mean, like, even if you went 10 times that, $250,000 is not enough to buy a house in most places in the country.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? In fact, you'd almost have to put one more zero, and like 100 times 2.5 mil is actually kind of like, especially here in California for a lot of
Hmm.
properties, just average. Nothing like crazy, like lavish too. You're talking the millions now. It's nuts.
That's ridiculous, dude. Nah, it should not be like that.
I agree, and it's
Hmm.
definitely something that makes living in this state hard and hard every day. And I think that's also it too, especially if you're just in a high cost area. Perhaps, if you're living somewhere that's a little more rural, you may not have the as hard of a situation. You might be able to pivot a little more off of that. You'll probably have
Yeah.
more of a local community to rely upon as well. But if you're in a major metropolitan area, I think you're definitely going to be front and center for what gets hit with this, honestly.
Yeah. Because with if you're living in a rural area, you're being a bit more self-reliant.
Yeah.
You're growing your own food, like, so you're not having to really, you don't have as many. Well, I don't want to say you have as many expenses, but like, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, like you were saying, yeah, no, it's gonna be tough for the people who live in the cities, especially with these upcoming 15-minute cities.
Yeah, I saw that. And they're already trying to jump on like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. I'm like, really? Because
Why are there articles about it then?
I know, right? Huh.
What the fuck?
It's wild how quickly, as soon as something gets discovered or discussed, you know what I mean? The narrative
Hmm.
change. There's always a massive narrative change on everything. And that's why,
Yeah.
like, with this situation, I think it's going to be no different. That there's going to be a narrative control that's going to be very frustrating to anyone who's been paying attention, because they're
Hmm.
going to frame it in a way that I don't think is going to be very true. And the average population, I think, is going to go with it.
Yeah. Oh
Hmm.
yeah, because like I believe like because someone was saying um they passed in a bill or something like that will excuse me, they passed a bill or something that would allow the government to seize land that maybe polluted and
Hmm.
force people to live in like these 15-minute cities that they're building or whatever.
Hmm.
And it's like, wow,
Wow. Hmm. Which
coincidences.
coincidences? Whole lot of those happening. Whole lot of those related to cost of living. Whole lot of that related to general health, which seems to be an ongoing issue.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think all you can really do at this point is prepare as best as possible, build up your own safety net as much as possible, and be ready to pivot. I
Hmm.
think that's really one of the most critical things, is mentally being ready to be like, okay, it's time to change and pivot based on this change that just happened. And I think the ability to pivot is really going to be what saves most people more than anything in this upcoming chapter of
Hmm.
inflation and deflation in terms of your assets, can you pivot? And I hope that everyone's doing their best to position themselves in a place where they can.
Mm-hmm. Well, if they've been paying attention to us, like we've given them several ideas on what they can do. So I mean,
right.
And hopefully they do their own research on what they can do too. Whether it's find a new trade, start a business, selling a product or a service.
Absolutely. It's now is the best time to make a change if you're looking to do that. Now is the best time, I think, to try and build something. And I mean, I hate to put it this way, but it's like, what do you have to lose at this point if you're already not keeping up with your job? You know what I mean? Like it's like you might as well just throw it all to the wind and just like let's try this. Let's try this new field. Let's try this new business. Let's try this idea I have. The internet facilitates a lot of things now, so there's a lot less barrier to entry, and I think it's important to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
Now more than ever.
Oh yeah, because like they say, the easy money movement is done. Like no more easy money is around. Like it's going to be hard from here on out. Yes. So you really have to get ready.
Yes. Yeah. You have to get ready to pivot your ideas, your mindset, and to just full lifestyle pivot. I think that's what I would emphasize for everyone who might be listening is just expect the unexpected. Don't trust any security.
Yeah.
And believe in yourself, because you're going to get yourself through this more than anyone else. So I would say start finding what works for you. So
that's where it starts.
That's really where it starts, is with yourself and trying to don't be scared of trying new things, because it's going to take a lot of change from what you've known to get through this next period of time for sure.
Yeah.
Well, in that regard, I think we discussed a bit about the upcoming retirement crisis that we're having here, the pension crisis, how that relates to everyone, the intermingling of it all. At this point, I think just allowing people to know this. If you know it's going to happen, you can prepare. So I would say do your best to just be aware of the situation so that nothing catches you off guard. And that would be honestly Middle Class Macros. Best piece of advice that we can get to all of you. Thank you once again for joining us here on this episode. Once again, my name is John, my business partner and friend Steven here, and we just wish you the best on your pursuits of trying to get through it. Stay strong, stay with it, and feel free to leave a comment down below and let us know how this might be affecting you, or what you think that would be the best option to pivot at this point. Oh, like and subscribe.
Like, subscribe, share. Do it all.
Do it all. All the buttons. Just get at them. All right. Thank you for joining us again, guys. You all have a great day. Middle Class Macro. We're out.
Everyone take care.